considerate, we're having, it falls under the word kindness. And you can see, we're going to, as we go through it, that it's showing kindness, but it's being thoughtful. The other word here, if you're going to fill in to catch up what you missed last week or what you didn't bring with you, is the opposite word is rude. Rude. People say that, how rude. And it is. And considerate, being considerate sometimes is, it's not just that you're not rude, it's that you're thinking of others. You're considering others. And that's, so the definition we use is showing kindly awareness. Awareness. Showing kindly awareness of or regard for another's feelings or circumstances. So much of being kind and so much of being considerate is just being aware that others are not just like you, not just like me, that things bother them, and that we can change very small things in our lives, in our words, in our attitude, that will make a lot of difference in their life, just because we're being aware of their situation. So going to the back, I'm not really reteaching, I'm just restating.
Terry, what's the third one? Considerate.
I'm working on, I'm sorry. Showing kindly awareness or regard for another's feelings or circumstances. We're thinking about how they feel, but also thinking about their circumstance. What's so funny?
When she said her name, our series are going off.
Oh, I have that problem all the time. My phone, if someone says my name, their phone goes off. Yeah. She should change her name. Frankly, I had mine first. Okay, so on the other side of your card then, we have one of the ways to be considerate is to have a considerate perspective. This is how we're looking at situations, we're looking at interactions, we're looking at relationships. It's our perspective. You know what? Sometimes we have to remember to look out of ourselves and away. What bothers, what matters to them. And so often our perspective is what's best for me. And if we're going to be Christ-like, we're going to be having to say what's best for them and others, if we can. Number one, put ourselves in others' shoes. Sometimes it's simply saying, if I were in their place, how would I feel? It isn't that they're odd. It's not that they're different than us, but we don't always think about, what if I was where they are right now? How would I like someone else to treat me or to speak to me or to refer to me or such? The second one is anticipate the needs of others. Anticipate the needs of others. You have been living this with regard to ever since my knees have gotten really bad, I have people bringing me food left and right so I don't have to go over there to get the food. And probably I'll come to the point where I'll have to say, stop bringing me food. That's my issue. But whatever, if you're anticipating a need and doing something. What the teacher's needing next, or what the leader, for me it would be teacher, what their coworker, the one they're supposed to assist, is needing next. And they get there first, and they have it ready, so it's already there. Those are the best assistants. You want to see that in what was that movie, The Wedding Planner, where she had everything with her. They said, oh, this happened. Oh, she had this, all right on her person. And because she was anticipating needs as a job, but we can do it just as a way of expressing kindness. Number 3, think about others when in public. We ended with this, and I wanted to stop there because I knew the next point might take a little explaining. But when we're in public, have you been in a place where you're like, oh, those people are so rude, we can't talk, we can't think? So what we have to do is say, what are we like in public?
Um,
And I've been proud to know that our ladies at Wendy's, when we go to Wendy's, there's a group of us, but we put our table together and we may be a little, I don't know that we're overly loud, we're laughing. They've never indicated they don't want us there. In fact, Mom and I went to get breakfast one day this week, and Liviana served us, and she wouldn't let us pay anything. Yeah, the food was poisoned, but no, no, it was all good. It was all really good. But what I'm proud of is that when we leave, we don't just expect them to put the tables back. We put our tables back. We put everything back, so we leave it better than we found it sometimes. And that's a good thing. I think believers should be doing that in our situations. We should leave a place better than when we found it. And that's because we're being aware of the people being in public. And number 4, so this is new, we'll be sensitive to others' financial situation. Now, I'm not encouraging you to pursue the knowledge of other people's financial situation. I'm not saying we should all share our financial situation, but there are times it doesn't take very long in a relationship, even just a church, to know that if I request this, if I say, oh, you want to go out? We're going to pay each for our own lunch. Not to pick the place they can't afford. And it isn't that we are saying they're less than us or anything or more than us, but we're being aware. And the aware is for those who might have less. You don't need to be aware so much of those who have more and think, why aren't they offering to pay for me? That isn't what I'm taught. It's not as important as being aware that we don't want to embarrass them nor encourage them to leave a budget because everyone else is. And so we want to be aware of it in ways to be considerate, not to be nosy, not to be controlling, but to be considerate. And that's something we don't always think about. So these are some ways to have a considerate perspective. So let's move on to being considerate in conversation, in our speech, or way we talk. Number 1, choose timing carefully. Choose timing carefully. Let me read this verse from Ecclesiastes 3. It's talking about timing, right? For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. The most harmless comment, if now we're talking about our speech, the most harmless comment can come off as offensive if we say it at the wrong time. There can be a time when something is funny, when something is fine, that most of the time, but if we are aware that this could be a sensitive time for this person, this isn't a good time to say it. People sometimes follow through and they say it when they shouldn't, and we even have an expression. Do you know that? Not among Christians, but among everybody. And they'll say something that they know bothers a person or something because of a hurt or something, and then they'll say, oh, too soon? That's totally saying you knew it was not the right thing to say. It was the wrong time. And it's so important we learn to be aware of timing. When is the best time to say it, if we have to say it at all? Make sure that the person or people you are talking to are in the right frame of mind to be receptive to whatever you might say. I do want to say this to them, but this is not the right time. And I'll just let the Lord bring another time about. If it's that important. If it's so important, the timing is just as important as the words. And I had to say it. It needed to be said. Didn't necessarily need to be said then. And here's one more thing about timing. And I'm not stepping on anyone's toes. I might be stepping on my own, but here it is. Never interrupt. Interrupting is a timing issue. We don't want to wait. Well, they never take a breath. There are times when that happens too. I don't know. If they're a good friend, you can establish a signal. I'm in line whenever you're ready to breathe. I have something I want to. And then as we're old, we have to deal with, I'll forget what I was going to say. But I think being aware that we don't like to be interrupted. Remember, we're putting ourselves in other shoes. Remembering we don't like to be interrupted might help us not to interrupt others. There's ways, if you're good friends with people, to establish a signal or a way you cross your eyes, time out. But it really is a skill to learn not to interrupt. Yeah. Number 2, choose words carefully. It's not just the timing, it's also the words. If you want to be considerate, the words you use are just as important as the message you're trying to communicate. The words can make a big difference. Colossians 4:6 says this, "Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know you ought to answer each person." Wow, that is a very much a personal responsibility on each of us in dealing considerately with each person, thinking carefully of the words we use. I used to wonder why this verse says seasoned with salt. That means make them as digestible as possible. Make them so however I say them, even if they're difficult words for that person, they're delivered and chosen in such a way that they're as agreeable with the person as possible. Palatable, receivable. We went to Taco Bell many times, but once when we went, we were all eating and we're going, what is this food taste so different? And they had forgotten to salt their beans that day. Can you imagine? And I don't know if they're waiting to the end of the batch. I would have recommended throw that batch out and make a new one that you salt or add salt, do whatever. But it made it almost inedible. And we sometimes are not careful about the words we choose, and then we wonder why they didn't receive them. You made them disgusting. So we have to ask the Lord, help me to have the right words, not just the right timing. And thirdly, wait, I have another comment here. If you want people to be receptive and not feel bad, you have to carefully think through the words you use. Even if you're giving negative feedback, you can find a delicate way to phrase it. Your message sounds less offensive if you don't use the words should or you all the time. Now let me explain. I ran into a person who was, I guess, bold enough to tell me that they felt like I was always telling them what they should do. And I realized I'm just giving them advice, but if I use the word should, it sounds like if they don't, they're wrong. So instead, I've tried to, when they ask advice, I try to say one thing you could do. Could is way different than should. It took away, this is really your best choice, so follow it or you'll be wrong. Well, what you could do instead, or another thing, I've heard of others who have tried, took a you out of there. One thing that I found worked for me, instead of you or should, something to think about. And the other one, you can usually find a delicate way to phrase it. The other thing we said, if you just think it through and not just, sometimes we may have to wait to give this negative feedback we want to give people. We need to give them or feel that we need to tell them this is not good. Maybe don't have to do it immediately so we can think it through and work out the best way to not offend more than we need to. It's hard to receive negative input, even from those you love. In fact, it's a proverb that says the wounds of a friend, they're good because they're helping you, but they're still wounds. And so we need to be aware of that. Number 3, Again, there are no names written on this. This is for all of us. I think women would fit this, but here we go. Don't monopolize conversations. Don't monopolize conversations. For some of us, we have to work at not basically monopolizing the conversation. Meaning we take most of it, we guide it, we're the ones kind of keep it going and directions, whatever we want to talk about, that's what we talk about that day, and then we do the most talking. And as women, we're very, very good at this. Some of us are exceptionally good at it. And it takes a consideration. We have to be considerate. We're going to have to give more thought to that. We're going to have to, you know what, one thing I encourage Alicia to do is to watch herself, when I get the videos, to watch herself teach. Now, that has nothing to do with whether she's good or she was great last week. But as been done that myself, is we don't realize some things we might be doing. I didn't notice one, but when we watch ourselves, we're very much more critical. And it can help us. Oh, I found out I dropped off on the I did. While watching myself, I found out I dropped off my voice on the end of sentences. Now I try not to. But it was because I listen and go, what'd I say? But again, like monopolizing conversation, we don't always know we did it. And maybe as we're driving away, having had lunch with a friend, we can think through, what did I learn what did they really talk about today? Did they talk at all? If that's your thought, maybe you're monopolizing the conversation. And it takes effort to draw people out to be part of it. And it's all being considerate of them. Inconsiderate people tend to talk on and on without realizing that other people couldn't care less. The next time you talk in a group, be aware of how much you're talking as opposed to everyone else. Now, I'm supposed to teach right now, so make sure you give other people a chance to talk and ask how they are doing and feeling. You ever have that conversation where you have someone who talks to you and talks and talks, and then they say, oh, enough about me, let's talk about you. What do you think of me? It's very easy to be self-centered. We can fall into that. Being considerate is less self-centered. Here's some questions to ask yourself. Are those who you are currently talking with really interested in an experience you had with someone they don't even know? Does your church friend want to hear all about the meeting you had at work? See, we don't even realize, because something's important to us, that we're talking to someone who has no frame of reference for the story we're telling. So we want to be careful, be considerate. It doesn't mean they don't care. It means they don't know. And it's hard to listen to a conversation that a speaker is telling you something that has nothing to do with your life or your shared relationship. Okay, and number 4, thank or apologize as needed. They are sometimes opposites. Thank or apologize as needed. Colossians 3:15. I'm sorry, I forgot to read Proverbs 10:19 up there, and that one is really good to remember. When words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent. Sometimes we have to hold back. I had so much more to say. That's okay. We have a phrase for that too. Loose lips sink ships. That's it. Be careful that we're not talking too much. And now let's read under thank or apologize, Colossians 3:15, and let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which you indeed were called in one body, and be thankful. We want to be thankful people. Gracious, not just thankful to God, that's valuable and priceless and necessary, but thankful to others. Thankful for what they speak into our lives. Thankful for their very presence, that we can share a relationship. Thankful for the words they say to us. I'm so glad I got to get, well, we were saying today, we were glad we were partners to pray because we got caught up a little bit on each other's needs right now. And we're grateful for that. And sometimes we need to let that person know and say thank you. You can never say thank you too much, as if it's a sincere thank you. And then about apologizing, Matthew 5:23-24. So if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. When I was learning the Bible better and I understood this, that God is saying, I put me on hold. Me receiving your gift, your offering, I will wait while you work things out with one another. That's how valuable it is to him that we not have offenses between us. This actually says it's not even me who's mad at him. It says your brother has something against you. If you realize as you're starting to worship that there's somebody that seems to have something bothering them in your relationship, it says don't get so caught up in giving your gift that you ignore the fact that there's someone you need to talk to and work things out and maybe apologize. Sometimes we offend people without knowing it. Once we know it, we can get defensive, but we were to realize, if I'd have realized I did that, I would have apologized, but I didn't know. And once I know, I want to ask forgiveness.
My question is, does that work both ways? So if you have something against other people.
Yes. I wouldn't question that at all, because if you're harboring a hurt, or it's usually a hurt. It's not always that they have done something wrong. It's that you're hurt. I think if it comes to your mind while you're offering a gift, like in worship, that's part of it, is a gift of worship, or you're offering or whatever, something we're giving to the Lord. And in that moment, because we're thinking of the Lord and opening up our hearts, he may be revealing to us, you have an offense. There's someone who's offended by you, or you need to let go and forgive them, whether they ask or not, so that you're not thinking of it.
Okay, so I'm thinking of somebody specific in it, what she says, and she's holding grudges against people, a lot of people. But she says because they hurt her, and Jesus said to, what is the one she says? Not turn the other cheek, because she's not doing that. It's
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that verse where Jesus said to retaliate.
no, there isn't one, but it's yeah. That's my whole point here. She's not. I can't think of the verse she uses, but it's more like he told me not to take it. Is basically what she said. If they hurt me, then I don't have to take that. And that's what she's sticking with. And we try to talk to her, but she doesn't listen.
Well, if the offense is in her life but isn't actually against you, then there's other ways to deal with it. This is talking about if they have an offense.
I understand, and I'm sorry.
But yeah, no, that's okay, because that's,
trying to figure out how to use this.
yeah. And it might come under considerate, but it might come under being honest, which we'll talk more about with when we do goodness. We'll talk about encountering that type of thing. Yes.
Sorry. There I am.
What?
I said there I am apologizing for.
No matter how small the deed, it's important to thank people so that they know you appreciate them and understand that people, and don't just expect people to do nice things. One of the things that bothers parents as their children are getting to be teenagers and they seem ungrateful. That's a big thing. Mom and I happened to watch an old Patty Duke episode last night. I look for these shows to be clean and fun. That's those old ones. You know, we just finished Hazel, and so Patty Duke, and the whole episode was that the mother was so loving to help her family, to serve them. She loved doing it, but they never appreciated it. Nobody ever said they appreciated it. And the truth is, they did, but they just didn't say it. Isn't that sad? And so many times I've even had people tell me, this person did this thing and it was so thoughtful. It was just what I needed. And they told me, and I said, wow, that's great. Did you tell them? So think about that. Show appreciation. It makes a difference. And sometimes a thanks can look insincere if it's just said flippantly. And we may have to get eye contact. We say thanks, and then they, oh, you're welcome. And you can just maybe just touch their hand, especially a woman. Okay, I'm just saying. And just say, no, I want to say thank you. That meant a lot to me. It means a lot to me. And make sure they understand the gratitude of our hearts. So we're giving consideration. So when they think back on that sacrifice they made, that with it, it has this thank you. And depending on some situations, the word thanks may not be enough. In the old days, they wrote thank you notes. They actually sell thank you notes in stores. What? I think that the key is to make the thank you more than just hey thanks, but it maybe expresses the meaning it had to you at times. Yeah. But here's something to remember with regard to the apologize one. Even considerate people have flaws. Write that down. Even considerate people have flaws. Even God's people have flaws. They're not perfect. Don't just say sorry when you're in a situation and walk away like you couldn't care less. Oh, that bothered you? Sorry. Now, by putting that first phrase, I said basically you shouldn't need me to say sorry. It shouldn't have bothered you. But since you decided it bothers you, I'll say sorry. Isn't that what that sounds like? If I just say, oh, that bothered you? Sorry. Make a point again when you truly are sorry that something bothered somebody or hurt them. Make that eye contact and say, I am truly sorry. If I will make every effort to not hurt you like that again. I didn't mean to, but if you did mean to, don't lie. But on the other hand, we don't want to say, we have to learn how to say you're sorry. Did you know that? Because I don't know why we don't do very well with it. It's embarrassing or something. Because children even, and I know they should, the parents start out telling their children, tell your sister you're sorry. And you're not one tiny bit sorry. But you learn you have to say it. And so we have to, as adults, we have to teach ourselves to say, I'm sorry. And remember, you're only apologizing for what you did, not for what they did. You think you don't understand that? Okay, here's an apology. I'm sorry you were bothered by that. What did I do wrong? Nothing. They were bothered. Yeah, but I apologized. You apologized for their action. And they didn't want to. They didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And it's hard not to say it that way. I'm sorry you felt bad. That sounds so nice, but actually I'm not apologizing. What I should have said, or probably, is you have to think of what you did. What did I do? I'm sorry that what I said hurt you. It was inconsiderate of me, or I didn't realize it would hurt you, but I'm still sorry because it did. And now that I know that's something that hurts you, I will make every effort not to do that. Please, will you forgive me? It's harder to say, will you forgive me, than I apologize. But it's a better way to ask of forgiveness. And so there are times we're going to offend people. Now, I want to deal with the time when you don't think there's anything to apologize about. And if you surveyed the room, but don't. But if you surveyed the room, they'd agree. Most of them would say, you're right. You just did this and they got easily offended. You didn't really do anything wrong. But the truth is, when you think about it, think through it. Can I still say I'm sorry though? Because I did not want them to be hurt. That was not what I wanted to do. Maybe they shouldn't have been in my mind, but I still don't want to hurt them. If I had known, would I have stopped? If the answer is yes, then I can truly be sorry. I am sorry. I did something that hurt you. Notice the blame. I can only apologize for me. And never say, you shouldn't have been offended. You can say, I wasn't aware, but now that I am truly sorry. Will you forgive me? Some people are shaking their head. The sad thing is we can't practice apologizing, really, because we don't know. But just try to think of how you would feel. And you know what? You don't want to have to apologize for how you apologized. So you may want to work on that. Think it through. You okay with that? If we're going to say we're sorry for something, make sure we are the ones who did something. And if they don't want to apologize and they did something, that's between them and God, not us. So those are ways to be considerate in conversation. I didn't know they would take so long. This is going to be the only card we finish today. Yeah. The last section here is to act considerate. We've already talked about having a considerate perspective and considerate conversation. Now let's look at some actions. Number 1, do nice things for those in need. Or if you'd rather put in your family. No, it's for those in need. It's not for those we like to do nice things for. It's those in need. 1 John 3:17, but if anyone has the world's goods, this is not a spiritual thing right here. It's saying if we have the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? 1 John 3 is very in your face about if you have God's love, then these things should be different in your life. If you say you love God and you hate your brother or you act like you hate them, then you don't love God. I didn't make it up. Read 1 John 3. It's a bit in your face about love. Being considerate means recognizing when someone would need your help, even if you don't know them. There's nothing in there that says you have to know them. When the man asked Jesus, who's my neighbor? Because when Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, he looked for a loophole because he knew he wasn't loving his neighbor as himself. So he said, which neighbor? Who's my neighbor? And Jesus went on to tell the story of the Good Samaritan. And if you say, well, who was his neighbor? How was a Samaritan his neighbor? The man on the road, his neighbor. He didn't know him. How was he the Samaritan's neighbor? They weren't even the same nationality. The man was in need. Jesus seems in that parable to be saying, if someone needs your help, they're your neighbor. And that's how we're supposed to be considerate. As long as you don't As long as you don't help people who don't want the help, you're probably generally considered. If you help somebody, there could be people who don't want your help, and you have to figure that out. That's sometimes hit and miss. You're sitting here, if you're going, everyone wants help. Sometimes people don't. And we have to think about that. Think about them. It could be that there's somebody, sometimes disabled people are working to learn they want to be independent. Is that true, Vicki? People want to be independent and we're not letting them. And it's like the old story of the Boy Scout, he needed to do a good deed, so he helped an old lady across the street. Unfortunately, she wasn't going that way and didn't want to cross the street. His consideration was really for himself, not for her. So we need to think about it. Do they really want my help? Number 2, practice good manners. Ooh, manners. We've heard of those. We need to learn to practice good manners. Even 1 Corinthians 14:40 says all things should be done decently and in order. Manners matter. That's saying please and thank you, and it's demonstrating good manners is part of being considerate. Then you can't be rude, loud, or annoying in social situations because, well, that's not considerate. One of the last point there on that line says be punctual. Do you know what that means? Okay, just checking. One of the most inconsiderate things we can do is to act like our time is more important than someone else's. We may not do this intentionally, but if we consistently show up late and make people wait, especially if you make a habit of it, then this sends the message to the people that you don't really care about their time. The fact that they're waiting and waiting. I had a teacher who, if somebody was late, he would take, if they were 5 minutes late, he'd say to them, you just wasted 100 minutes because there's 20 of us waiting for you and you're wasting everyone's time. And it is inconsiderate to be late. And if that's a habit you have, it takes working at it. It may take overcompensating and aiming for early in order to, because you say, I always have a good reason I'm late. This happened, and you're right. My dad always said, make sure you allow time to have a flat tire and fix it and still get to church on time. We're never late. We're never late. We always say that about God, and we're trying to be like him, right? God is never late, but he misses many opportunities to be early. Last one, do random acts of kindness. Random acts of kindness as being considerate. Hebrews 13:2 says, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. You can read stories about this where people thought they were just being kind to a person and it wasn't a person. We thought we had that situation happen once at a youth retreat when Dan Fick was my youth pastor when I was growing up. And we went on a youth retreat, and we were sleeping in this building by a lake. This building, the girls were in one section, the guys were in the other, and in the middle of the night, our roof caught on fire. And so I know when they woke me and people saying the roof's on fire, my first thing, I'm used to Dan Fick being my brother-in-law by that time, and I said, I'm sure Dan will handle it. But no, we had to get up and get out of there because the roof was on fire. And so he told later of the story of how he went to get up on the roof to start the buckets. We had a bucket brigade coming from the lake right away. And he couldn't get up on the roof. And he says, all of a sudden, someone pushed me up. And we looked around and nobody saw anyone push him up. But he got up and he thought he was pushed up there. Later, someone said, I pushed you up. So, whether they were an angel's unaware or there was another angel, we don't know. But sometimes when we entertain, we just are kind with random acts of kindness. There's somebody that we had no idea needed that, and God sent us to do it. We want to make a habit of looking for opportunities to help people in some way. That is being considerate. Now, one of the things you can do today, if you want to be considerate, is if you either know you can keep your encouraging card that you took, or return it to here and I'll bring it back again next week, so that we don't have to make all new ones. Thank you, Lord, for today. Thank you that you thought of us. You were considerate. Help us to follow your example. In Jesus' name, amen.